In today's Cars from Another Decade, we have this wonderful Skoda Estelle Two. So in today's video, everyone, we are joined by Matthew, that's Matthew, and his wonderful Skoda Estelle Two.
Yes.
Named Mog. I think we can guess why it's called Mog. She's a 1986 rear engine Skoda L.
Yeah, 120L.
120L. When did you buy Mog?
May 2019. So yeah, it was brought from a friend who's in the owners club, who had the car and had driven it for a bit, and was going to restore it, but then life got in the way, things happened, it wasn't going to happen, and I'd already brought a car from them and put that back on the road, so they decided that they would let me have Mog to do up. I was looking for a project. I'd been after a cheap Estelle, which this was, for a while, and then the fun and games begun, sort of rebuilding it and stripping it and putting it back together.
So when you got Mog, did you have a good inkling as to the amount of work that was going to be needed?
I thought I knew.
Or did you suffer the fate that most of us classic car purchasers suffer, which is, oh dear, I didn't realise it needed that?
Yes, there was a lot of that. I mean, there was obvious things that I knew, like the seals had patches on and the engine didn't run, so that was going to need some work. Smart car. Well, I didn't have a lot of choice, but anyway.
Yeah. But she thanked you even though you didn't have a choice.
She did, so fair play to her. So there were obvious things like that that were going to need doing. The engine needed some work, it didn't run, the original carburettor and stuff had gone, so whether or not it was seized or it ran or it didn't run, I didn't know. But we loaded it up onto a trailer anyway and took it back to the farm, which sadly is no longer there. It's since been demolished.
But it was handy to have.
Oh, it was very handy to have. And we set about seeing if it would run, which it did. Unfortunately, the head gasket had blown, so the oil was looking rather...
Is that common on a Skoda Estelle, is it? Or?
Yes. Yeah. Because they have an aluminium block with a cast iron head.
Okay.
So cast iron and aluminium expand and contract when they get hot at different
levels,
rates,
yeah.
which causes the head gasket to sort of give way, which that had done. There were other things in the engine that we later found out needed replacing. So with that in mind, the engine was removed and stripped, and I rebuilt the whole engine. had all the head checked, pressure tested, crack tested, all of that, and skimmed at machine shop. Well, we thought we'd measured all the liners and that they were fine within tolerance. We put the car back in, and after replacing sort of big ends and bearings and piston rings and all the such like, realised that
Matthew's making this sound really simple.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, it is. I mean, it's a deceptively simple engine to work on. There's not much to it.
But the key thing there is you've done the work.
I did.
With the help of friends,
Yeah,
but you've done the work.
Yeah, it was all done sort of at home. But then we found out when we did the first start that the car smoked worse than it did before and was burning a profuse amount of oil. You could probably literally pour it in as quick as it was burning it. It then needed new cylinder liners, so the engine had to come out and be stripped again, which was a little bit...
that would grate me a little bit if you'd done all that work to start with.
Frustrating. There were everybody who was kind of... Oh, hold on. Everybody who was... I didn't think that was quite as bumpy as it was. Everybody who kind of was involved in the rebuilding and repainting and sort of repatriation of the car will tell you that I was... Right, I've had enough, that's it. Turn it into a wash machine.
I can relate to that.
Go into the scrapyard.
There's only so much I will take before I normally walk away and give up. So the engine now, in your honest and experienced opinion, if you don't mind me saying, Matthew, is good.
Is as good as it's going to get.
It's good as it's going to get.
It runs well. As I explained to you earlier, there is a bit of an issue with the distributor and stuff, being that it's a bit of a...
It has a tendency to move out of time.
It does. It jumps, which it shouldn't do, which can make it a bit chuggy when you're trying to put it under load. So that's something that's going to have to be replaced. Unfortunately, trying to get parts for this car is no mean feat.
No, and I am currently unsure how many Skoda Esteles are still on the road in the UK.
I believe, from the research that I did, there's about 700 in the UK of various, so 105s,
yes, of
130,
course,
136s, 120s. There's about...
Does that include all the Mark, not just the Mark II?
So that's all of them across the board.
That's all of them across all Esteles?
Yeah, there's about 700-ish left. So obviously there aren't many people in the UK that stock parts.
The demand is not there.
No, so trying to find cylinder liners and things like that, they came from a guy in Slovakia who has emailed me and continues to about the car, and he's quite interested in its restoration.
Okay.
So they came from there. There is a really good guy in Germany who runs Skoda, which is a really good website. Unfortunately, he's not importing into the UK at the moment because
because of Brexit,
import duties and tax and stuff. So that's a bit of a problem. So sometimes, like the gear bushing was made from one out of a transporter,
but it works.
But we made it fit and it works fine. So because I couldn't get one, and it's one of those like little pieces that you just can't get. So the distributor was sort of a Chinese or eBay reproduction one.
Okay.
That hasn't held up that well, and it isn't that great. So that's obviously something that's gonna need to be done. And we're still running points, and I would quite, for a sort of reliability point of view, like the car to go onto some kind of electronic ignition.
Okay.
Just so it's a bit more reliable and a bit easier to sort of live with.
Understood.
Rather than adjusting points all the time and keep making sure they're clean and all the faff that goes with that.
So bodywork wise, how was Mog when you purchased it? And we will be putting some insets during this video of some fantastic photos of Mog, both before and after Matthew took ownership.
Rough. Yeah, rough. I don't think the car had been polished in about 20 years.
Okay.
Probably ever in its life, I don't know.
And rust?
There was not much on the body, like the doors and everything are all original, they've not been replaced.
Which is nice.
The bonnet's not been replaced, the boot's not been replaced.
So there wasn't much in the way of rust?
No, that was visible. The rear quarters and things had been patched, the seals had been patched. There were various patches and bits of filler here and there. But generally as a rule, it was reasonably solid.
Okay,
and I picked it, floors, chassis, most of the important structural elements
were sound.
sound.
And
So nothing's been done to those.
and who has done the bodywork on this
Me.
car?
With help again.
So, at the risk of stating the obvious here, what amazes me with Matthew, and it amazed me when I met Matthew at this show, please look for a link to that show in the description below this video, is I quickly realised that Matthew has effectively done all the work on his Estelle
Yeah.
himself, with the help of friends and his partner, which I just think is amazing.
Yeah, we set two. It was more, I don't have the biggest wage in the world. I couldn't afford to go and pay a company to do it. And to be fair, they would probably charge me 10 times more than what the car would ever be worth to do all the work that was done on it. And when I brought it, I thought it was a case of maybe tart up the bodywork, maybe do a bit of welding here and there. There was a few holes in the inner wings, bits and bobs, which turned out to be masses of holes and masses of rust. Had to all be replaced. But you don't know that till you rip the wings
No,
off.
of course you don't. No.
So there was more, and 2 years later, it was done. So it was sort of 2 years of weekends. Lockdown was quite a useful.
Helpful, yeah. I think lockdown's been helpful for many people
Yeah.
with classic cars.
And sort of meant that while I was furloughed for sort of 9 weeks, I was sort of able to go and work on my own, I will add, in a barn on my own,
Okay.
in a farm where there isn't anybody, on my car.
Oh, to have that space, though.
I know, which we don't have anymore because it's now a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
But it was lovely to be able to, and obviously that basically meant I rebuilt the whole front end. All the brakes have been done, brake pipes, calipers refurbished. Obviously all the rear drums have been done.
Yes.
Which come off with quite a bang because they're tapered. So you have to get a puller to pull the drum
Yep.
off. And my God,
So it holds on and it holds on and it
Yeah,
holds
it's a
on
shame.
and then it's off.
it's a shame the barn's gone because I could show you the chunk it took out of the wall.
Ooh.
Like it really. Don't stand in front of one.
No,
of
I was
those
going to
if
say
you're ever doing it.
better to
Yeah.
damage the wall
So,
than yourself with that. Then.
Yeah, it really comes off with quite a bang. So they were all done. Then all the bodywork was done. All the dents.
Where was the painting done? Did you do the painting?
Yeah,
Was that at the farm?
yeah. In a dusty barn.
Do you know? Quite sincerely, everyone. People like Matthew amaze me because I'm only really good with cars for cleaning and polishing. When I meet someone that's good mechanically, I think it's really good that they get to know their car so well and they've got that, I guess, feeling of pride that they've done it themselves. But what Matthew has done, of course, is he's done both. He's done the mechanics and the bodywork. That's pretty much everything that the car would have needed to have had done.
I have more time for doing the bodywork than I do the mechanicals.
Okay, you prefer, I don't know when to say put a word in your mouth, but you enjoy it more or just prefer it?
I think I get more out of it.
You get more out of it, more
I think-
rewarding.
yeah, because there's a physical. Like if you've got a dented door and you pull all the dent out and then you feel.
You see the improvement.
Yeah, you feel that you
Whereas an engine just runs or it doesn't run, I guess.
Yeah. And you can't really see what's going on with it.
No.
Whereas people may argue that point. Whereas the bodywork, you pull the dent out and you kind of get it to a good state. You use your filler, you sand it all back, you get it all nice and flat, and it's quite a nice. And then you stand back and it's all painted and it looks brand new again. It's quite a rewarding.
Yeah, oh absolutely.
Feeling like there's a physical thing that you can go and look at and go.
It rewards me when I polish the car and I see the shine in it, even if it means it shows a reflection of my face. But at the end of the day, yes, it's rewarding because of course it's tangible. You can see the difference, can't you? I always ask everybody on the Cars from Another Decade series, what's your plans for MOG? Are you currently at least intending to keep MOG?
I will keep MOG because it was my first big project. A lot of work went into MOG, and
Yes, as we've heard.
sort of 2 years of every weekend and every holiday I could get off of work and everything else to kind of get it done. There was a lot of frustration.
A lot of blood, sweat and tears.
Yeah, a lot of frustration. A lot of but then a lot of reward from doing it, and it's been nice to kind of take it to shows and sort of share with people that
And you said to me earlier off camera that you were a little surprised initially just how
I am always absolutely...
how pleasant and excited people get when they see you in this car.
I am always absolutely amazed, and it still amazes me how many people comment
Positively.
on a car that effectively was
The Ford Escort for that country.
yeah, it was, you know, it was the Ford Cortina of the Czech Republic, I suppose.
Yeah.
And was an absolute laughing stock in the UK. It was a very, for a 1980s car, it's very old-fashioned.
Much like our 2CV.
Yeah, and it was a bit of a laughing stock and something that, you know, you only brought one because you couldn't afford anything better. And it is a slow car. It's not fast. I mean, it pulls quite nicely. It's only a 4-speed box, and I understand why they absolutely put a 5th gear in later in life.
So it's a 4-cylinder.
4-cylinder.
What litre, sorry?
1.2.
1.2. Hence the 120, I would imagine.
Yeah, so 1.2. It's water-cooled.
Okay. Shows the lack of my knowledge of Skoda Estelle.
Yeah, which confuses people because obviously most people associate a rear-engine car
as air-cooled.
The Volkswagen Beetle.
Of course.
Like,
and of course our Citroen 2CV is air-cooled.
Yeah. This is obviously has a radiator up front, 2 socking great big steel pipes that run back to front, and the engine's in the back.
So I guess they're more at risk of freezing again, I suppose.
Yeah. I do run a fairly strong
mixture of antifreeze. It's almost running on pure antifreeze.
Yeah, but the car's not really used during the winter.
No.
I mean, it is my second car, so if I absolutely have to in an emergency and the Beetle's off the road for whatever reason, for a few days, then I do use the Beetle. I do use the Estelle, and I do drive it to work. And you know, just going back to what we were saying the other day, somebody actually pulled up in the traffic on the A1 to tell me what a cool car it was, and you know how nice it was to see it on the road, and you know you're really sort of rocking it.
It's nice they took the time to do it. It's nice that they think it.
Yeah, nobody would ever say that in the Beetle.
Right, okay.
People sort of, you know, as I said to you, comment that it's a nice car. And
dare I use the word, they're a little bit more common?
They are,
even though, I mean, they're obviously a cult car, like Fiat 500, like many cars, like 2CV. And some people will love them and some people won't, and that's absolutely fine. It keeps the world going round. We don't want to all be the same. But yes, I think it is partly because there are just so few of these on the road. And look at the, you know, Matthew's going to disagree with me now, I'm sure. But if you look at the condition of this car with all the work that Matthew, his friends and his partner has done, it's a credit to you, Matthew. Absolute credit.
I think the thing is when
he didn't disagree, he's just quite touched, I think.
Yeah, I think the thing is when you do something yourself, you're really aware of all the things that maybe you would have liked to have done better, or you wish you'd done a bit better, or there's 3 dents along the door that I know are there. Nobody's probably even noticed them, but I know they're there and they didn't get got.
They can be done then.
They can be done, but it would mean me making the door again and fanning around. So
they're obviously not particularly noticeable, as you say.
No, but
you're the owner. You've done the work.
I know they're there.
Yeah, you know.
But then this is the problem of not doing things in a nice, lovely paint booth that's all beautifully lit.
But you had the space
to be able to do
and you had the time.
So we made a makeshift kind of paint booth with 2 old fans out of a Volvo pulling the air through, and some Harris fencing with shrink wrap around it, and
it did the job.
It did do the job.
I hope the camera does it justice, everyone, because the shine on this car. When I met Matthew at the Festival of the Unexceptional, it stood out immediately. Yes, there was a lot of great unexceptional cars, and you would expect that because it was the Festival of the Unexceptional, but it just was such a shiny, lovely example of a Skoda Estelle that I had to go and film it. Look at all the space. That's awesome. And I obviously had to go and meet Matthew. Have you had it long?
I've had it about 3 years.
tell him what I thought of his Skoda, which it doesn't sound like I'm the only person that's praised his Skoda, and rightly so.
No,
and then arranged to do this very video.
Yeah, I had lovely comments on the day. Some people were shocked that I hadn't been brave enough to enter it into the, well,
into the actual unexceptional.
Yeah, into what I call the winner's enclosure.
Because a Proton, albeit because it's the only one of that model still around, and then a Peugeot 106 came runner-up, didn't it? I did like the 106 though for what it was, because it was a good poverty spec graduate 106.
But it had a similar level of work done to it.
Yes.
I'd had, I think.
But I think what's important with Mog is you've commented just how many of the panels are still original.
Yeah, most of them. The only panels that were tampered with was the rear quarters, because they'd rusted out.
Okay.
The rust hadn't been cut out; it had just been patched. So therefore, it will happily just keep eating away underneath the patch. So that was all cut out, which there are photos for.
Yes.
I managed to find 2 complete rear quarters, which I've held on to just in case I need a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'm a hoarder.
Because some people, of course, given the space and money and the time, tend to buy a second car of the same as a parts car.
Yeah, but I couldn't find another one.
No.
That was any better than the one I had.
No.
That I could afford. So I did that. Obviously, the front wings came with the car. The previous owner had the front wings, so I brought them with the car with a pile of other bits. So that was handy. So the front wings were replaced. The inner wings were repaired in places, but mainly replaced.
Okay.
And the bits on the A-pillars where it had rusted through. That was luckily the actual strengthening part of the A-pillar. There's like a strengthening panel inside it. Was fine and hadn't rotted away. It was just the outer skin.
Okay, very good.
So that was a
relief when you found that out.
That meant the car wasn't completely totaled.
If you don't mind me saying, we've obviously done some driving around in the car before we started to film, just to get to know Matthew and the car even better. He drives absolutely lovely. Yes, okay, it's not a rocket ship. It's how many horses?
About 50.
So about 50. Bearing in mind you, R62CV is about 29, and I'm sure some French stallions have ran off since then. It drives absolutely lovely, and unless it's pulling up a hill, it's actually really relaxed, refined and quiet, and the seats are very comfortable.
They are actually.
Have you redone anything on the seats?
No, all I did was there was a nice set of original covers that came with the car. The owner had these.
Yes.
Because they all suffer. Basically, the fabric they used was obviously
not the most expensive.
Everyone you'll see has got the rear parcel shelf.
Is it fraying or whatever?
It's all eaten away by the sun and everything else. So, which had happened on this. So luckily I had these. These were original, like old stock.
Okay.
So they're designed for the car, and I think kind of suit the green paint and look quite nice.
No, I think they do. I think it goes really well.
It's there somewhere. They just won't stop squeaking. It's got new pads, new discs, it's got copper slip everywhere, it's got rebuilt calipers. What more do you want? But no,
it still squeaks on the brakes.
It still squeaks.
Is that flat to the floor?
Yeah, it's about halfway.
Ah, there you go. Not even trying.
We're going uphill. But I don't know, this one thing I will say about the car is this with a 5-speed box, so the later sort of 87 onwards, the last sort of run of Estelles they did have a 5-speed box. But they also had trailing arm suspension, whereas I've got swing arm, which makes it a little bit more unpredictable.
Yeah.
The weird handle, you have to open the bonnet to turn the handle to release your spare wheel underneath.
Of course.
If you look underneath, the spare wheel is now. So, to get the heated rear window to work, to keep your hands warm should you be pushing, just to clear up that joke, you click it that way and that will give you heated rear window.
Yes.
So that's now on. Now I can click it this way and it will give me my fan,
Okay.
which does work now.
Yes.
And then I can click it all the way around and I can have fan and heated rear window.
And you do get a light telling you
Yeah.
that the heated rear's on.
Yeah. Except at night, you have no idea what any of those are because they don't light up. The car doesn't have intermittent, but you get an intermittent option that does nothing. Instead of fitting one to one that has it and one to another that doesn't and isn't supposed to have it, they just put it in all of them. I mean, it does nothing.
Do we assume that some markets had it and they just couldn't be bothered to change?
If I got the 120 LSE,
it would have had it.
it would have had a
Whereas
sunroof
this is
and a
a-
radio and intermittent wipers.
Whereas this is a
L. So
an
it's-
L.
This is basically
A basic. Another quirk, Matthew.
another quirk is you get a lovely ashtray, nice big ashtray, but you don't get a cigarette lighter.
What's that all about?
I don't know, it's annoying.
Can we listen to the really loud and
Indicators.
apparently rather large relay that's doing
Yeah,
it?
that's just behind that light. It's
Every switchgear, or of the few bits of switchgear in this lower spec, lovely
Yeah.
Skoda Estelle, I'm sure Matthew don't mind me saying that, has got a reassuring feel of solidity, hasn't it?
yeah, it's got a clunk to it.
The car may be meant to be a sort of more affordable vehicle, but those switches feel like they're going to last forever.
That one has been replaced because the switch.
Oh well, so that one didn't last forever.
Yeah, no, well, it was. It's not that it didn't work, as in the soldering or something inside the actual electronics inside the
They
switch.
dry up, don't they?
Yeah, it's just giving way, and we did try and repair it. So that was a repro one. But they're all. Yeah, they're the only two air vents you get. I mean, there's loads of stuff because it's massive.
Look at the expanse.
It's got to be done. It's an 80s car.
So everyone, that was Matthew's absolutely gorgeous Skoda Estelle 120 Mark II. The amount of work that he has lavished, the amount of time that he has lavished on Mog, it just shows it's an absolute credit to the owner. Matthew, thank you very much for all your time today. It's been
You're
an
welcome.
absolute pleasure travelling around in Mog. I think you've done
An
a grand
experience.
I think you've done a grand job, and I hope you never sell her.
No, I shall keep her for a while at least.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And you're welcome.
Did you say you got a VW Beetle?
I do have a VW Beetle.